Hey guys, I'm a time traveler from the future and I just got done recording this video. Unfortunately, it ended up being a lot longer than I originally intended. So before we roll the intro, I am going to go ahead and tell you guys that I have put timestamps down in the description so you guys can jump to each point and I will title those points like accurately as I possibly can. So that way you guys don't have to sit through a really long video, as I did have a lot of comments on my last video saying that the video was just a little bit too long for people to get through and they were asking for an explanation of what was going on. Hopefully the timestamps will help you guys go ahead and focus on the situations that you want to and not focus on anything that you don't want to. Anyways, let's go ahead and roll the intro. Okay, boys, so I put up a community post on whether or not I should do this part 2, and over 4,000 people voted, with a overwhelming majority supporting the idea of me continuing to put out video on this with the new information that has come to light. I do want to make this perfectly clear before we even get into this. The only reason that I'm making this video is new information with completely no bearing on the last video has come to light that I feel like the community needs to be made aware of. Also, there was some other factors like Imian's piss poor response, where he completely dodged things that were damning to him with empirical evidence, deflected the blame for a lot of the situations that he was in that, he thought that he didn't have to apologize for, and then the lukewarm apology that he gave at the end of the video for the half of what he thought was his doing in the whole Finn Reinhardt situation. So obviously I want to respond to that, and we will be going point by point over his video. It's only 7 minutes long, and most of that is just filler and him just repeating himself over and over that he did nothing wrong. So it shouldn't take that long to go over that. Then we're going to get into the main core part of this video, which is the new information that's come to light. But before we even get into any of that, I'd like to address the one concern that I heard repeated the most from my comments and saw in Imian's comments, which is, why am I including myself in stuff that doesn't involve me? Why am I not just talking to Imian about this privately? And am I doing this for some form of clout or views? So starting with the first point, why am I involving myself in a situation that has nothing to do with me? To put it quite simply, almost every situation that I talk about in the art community has to do with me directly or indirectly, because I've built my career off of this community and I happen to be friends with most of the content creators in this community. I think everybody would agree that if somebody was fucking over your friends or was scamming your friends or anything of the sort, that you would feel like it personally involves you as it pertains to that person being your friend, and you would want to stick up for them in any way that you possibly could. Now, obviously, there are people that are fully outside of my, situation, but when the things that happen to them are so extreme, like in the case of James telling me that Imian completely cut him out from the servers, I do feel like it still needs to be addressed, and I don't really understand the argument of how it doesn't concern me and therefore I should just stay out of it. If you were to see somebody being assaulted or mugged or being taken advantage of in a public setting and you didn't know the person and you looked the other way, you'd be a pretty shitty person to do that. If you saw, likewise, somebody doing something that was a victimless crime, there was no direct person involved, like stealing or vandalizing someone's property, and again, you did nothing because it didn't involve you, you would still be a shitty person. So at the end of the day, exposing somebody for doing shitty things, whether or not it directly, indirectly, or at all is your personal business, I think is a moral obligation of anybody who's in that community. And as somebody who's in the art community, I think I did a pretty good job of that. And honestly, from the responses that I got both in DMs and in comments, I do believe that a lot of people would be agreeing with me on that one. Now, to the second point, as to why I didn't speak to Imian about this privately, this actually boggled my mind when it kept getting repeated. But if you watched the first video, you would see that multiple people, including people involved with me in my server, reached out to Imian privately about some of these issues, and none of it got resolved because that's just not an option. And I'm going to go ahead and show you guys some screenshots on screen. I did take a long time reading screenshots, so I'm not going to go ahead and read through all of them. I will go and read some of the finer points here, but we're not going to read every single screenshot. I do apologize. And I'm going to show you just from my personal experience what it's like trying to talk to Imian in a private setting. This first conversation took place well before I ever made that video. After me and Imian had a disagreement on whether or not people should be faking content, and he kicked me from a content creator Discord, he tried to reach out at one point, and this was already after he had ignored all of the issues with DDoSers that were staffed by him hitting our servers, and he did try and make amends. However, this was very hollow, as I've seen him do this time and time again, so I didn't even bother replying to him. He basically gave the overall opinion that he just wanted to restart and start over and everything, which is what, again, I said in the first video, this is how he operates. He does this so that he can continue to work with you, and I don't believe that this is genuine whatsoever, so I don't even bother replying. The next time that I hear from Imian, however, he's flexing that he's passed my subscriber count, and he's saying nice strategy in reference to a conversation that we had in another Discord where I said that I have a content strategy for 2022, which I do. YouTube at the end of the day is a career for me, and I do have content strategies as to what I'm going to upload, when I'm going to upload it, and I mean, I told him basically throughout this conversation that nobody really cares about, subscriber counts and things like that, and I've been very busy with my server. I was a little bit toxic and talked shit about his server because it has died at this point. But I do think that's a little bit fair considering the way that he's coming at me. And then basically, he started pressing me, asking about how much money I was making, which obviously I'm not going to tell him that. He flexed his estimated revenue and his subscribers gained in the last 28 days, which, you know what, good for him. If he's making a decent amount of money and gaining subscribers, that's perfectly fine. However, when you try to flex it, obviously I'm just going to completely ignore you. So yeah, basically this was like the first time that Imian was being super rude in my DMs. It would by no means be the last time. As you guys can see here, once the conversation finished, I said, I'm a little bit busy. You can wait like everyone else. Obviously, this was not, in reference to my next upload, which he then went and said, oh, don't get so many views, bro. A lot of people were waiting, I see. But it was in reference to the video that I uploaded last, which was the Imian video, and he had no way of knowing that. That was just a little tongue-in-cheek for me. But again, completely unprompted, no conversation had with Imian outside of DMs, and then the next thing that he's doing is just trying to flex the fact that I'm not getting a lot of views on my most recent videos. At the end of the day, any content creator who makes content on a regular basis but also has other things come up will tell you you either have two options. You can make content that's not going to be up to your standard and it's going to underperform, or you can just stop making content altogether while you're busy. And I chose to, continue to at least put some form of content out so that you guys have something to watch. And obviously, Imian thinks that I should just, not do that. And like him, he probably thinks that I should private any video that gets under 50,000 views. But, to each his own, every content creator operates differently. Oddly enough, like seconds later in that conversation, Imian switched gears and was trying to be nice to me, which leads back to Imian just being very impulsive, and maybe he did realize that he was kind of being an asshole. But, to his credit, he did try to switch gears and be nice. I want no part in being friends with him at this point, so obviously I'm not going to reply. And then after I upload the video, the first thing that he messages me is, nice try, you're so cringe, just coming at me all kinds of sideways. He starts trying to talk crap about my content again. He's saying how the community accepted his apology and how I'm a clown. And oddly enough, there's this weird thing with Imian and his most ardent supporters where they simultaneously say that I'm super into like doing this for views and clout and all of that, while also flexing how many views Imian has on his video versus mine. The only person that seems really interested in views though is Imian. He continuously brings up the fact that his video has more views than me, that he's pulling more views on his videos in general than me, that he's passed me in sub count, like this, that, and the other thing, which honestly, it speaks to him as a person, really. Like I've said in the previous video, he's very interested in being a numbers guy and having as many views as possible, and he's willing to do whatever he needs to do to get ahead. So again, you guys can scroll or pause or whatever through this entire, I recorded the DM. If you want, I'm not going to read every single thing that's been said. But one thing that I do want to focus on for a second is, the fact that towards the end of the conversation, I do actually ask Imian point blank if he paid Finn after the work had been done, and Finn expressed to him that he had an issue with not being credited or paid. I said, did you credit or pay him after that? And he said no. And I said, okay, there you go. And then I asked him, did you fake content, yes or no? And he said no. And then I told him, like, I have a screenshot here. You said to me personally that you played 70 days on your 100 days series. So either you were lying then or you're lying now. He tried to make some convoluted argument about how he was just saying 70 because he sped up his days, but like the math doesn't even check out for that. And we already knew that he had sped up his days, like we'd talked about it before, so there's really no point in trying to make that argument. I think it's just complete bullshit. At one point in the conversation, I tell Imian that he should have stuck to doing movie reviews because he actually seemed passionate about it, and I told him that they weren't even bad. He then got mad at me for trying to be nice to him and not being toxic, which I thought was really funny because it just shows that he wants to have an emotional conversation, and I'm just being objective. And honestly, I didn't think that his movie reviews were bad, so I'm just going to be honest about that. Then he brings up the Finn thing again, and then towards the end of the conversation, I told him that, there's no way for you to talk your way out of this. And he said, I don't need to. I said, you should not have fucked so many people over. And he said, true, I'm still getting views, so I don't care. And I said, you should have owned up to your shitty behaviors in your response. He said, don't give a fuck. I get more views than you. I'll do whatever the fuck I want. Make me own up. You're going to get more views than me. Do it. And this, again, just points to the type of person that Imian is. At the end of the day, like I said in the previous video, as long as you guys keep supporting him, he's going to do whatever he wants to do. I will say, however, I did see the sentiment shared a lot that a lot of people at ARC make fake content, and that's just not the case. I don't understand why people were trying to justify it, saying everybody fakes content. Speak for yourself. I don't know anybody who's faking content right now that I associate with other than Imian. I will quickly go over this last conversation because, again, I just want to drive home the point that unprompted from me, out of nowhere, Imian just messaged me one more time because he just cannot keep his mouth shut. And he's like, your most viewed vid in a month is about me. You need to get a part 2 up ASAP so you can get even more. If you want to make a part 3, let me know and we can work on it together. Again, all he cares about is the clout and the hype and the views. This is illustrated no more perfectly than him sending a Jake Paul GIF of all things. Jake Paul being, of course, the poster child of just doing anything for clout and views. Imian then, hasn't messaged me since, but literally, if this doesn't show you guys the kind of toxic person that he is in DMs, even prior to the video coming out, he was being just insanely toxic, then I don't know what to tell you guys. Like, we tried to be nice and we tried to tell him, hey, there's people that you employ, whether it's through monetary or through advertising or whatever he was doing with the whole DDoSing thing. And they're hitting our servers, and he chose to ignore it. We tried, multiple different people tried to reach out to him and tell him that his behaviors with the whole, Simplex Xvivo thing weren't good, and he completely ignored it. Like, he's going to do what he wants to do, and he doesn't care what anybody else's opinion is. So the idea that I should just handle this in the DMs, hopefully you guys get why that can't work. Okay, so to the last point that I'm doing all of this for views and clout, I will just put a screenshot on screen now showing that I did actually speak to Bam. I did speak to other people in VCs, but obviously I don't have screenshots of that. But I did speak to Bam about putting this second video on his channel possibly, and even finding somebody else who was around my channel size to put it on their channel, because I didn't want people to continue to think that I'm doing this in some way to get monetary gain or to get subscribers or views or anything like that. The whole purpose of these videos is to show you guys as viewers, but more so content creators and server owners and artists that might work with Imian, what kind of person he is and the things that he's done so that they don't work with him if they don't want to work with those kinds of people, and viewers don't support that kind of person if they don't want to support that kind of person. I also would just like to point out that I do think it is kind of strange that people are implying that I'm trying to clout chase and get views when the only person, once again, who is at all worried about the amount of views that these kind of videos are getting is Imian. He's continued to say in multiple different areas, whether it be DMs with other creators or DMs with me or in public discords, how many views his videos got compared to mine, which is really weird. I don't think that that's what this whole situation should be about. I think if he made made a genuine apology, and that's what, he wanted to do with that video. He wouldn't care how many views it got, and he would just be like, I'm done with it and move on. But clearly he does care about that, and it is weird that he's projecting that onto me. I also do think it's a little strange that people are also implying that I'm clout chasing a creator who's roughly the same size as me. While he is having a phenomenal month and he has seen a lot of growth in the last 30 days, Imian has had a even better month than this in the past, where he gained around 10,000 subscribers, and that didn't last indefinitely. And just like the last time that it happened, it probably won't happen again, and it's not going to just continue to give him 5 to 10,000 subscribers a month indefinitely. YouTube has growth periods for all channels, and YouTube has lulls for all channels. And right now, I'm more focused on doing server stuff than I am on my content. It is kind of strange, though. I do have a lot of friends who are a lot bigger than Imian on YouTube. Like, I'm pretty close friends with Blur. I'm pretty close friends with Bam. Really close friends with Shane. Me and Hod are pretty good friends. All of these people have more subscribers than Imian, and, over the averages do get a lot more views than Imian, and I don't go out of my way to try and collaborate with them on a regular basis. I normally only try to collaborate with people that I enjoy playing with, and it's always just because I know that I would get along really well with them. I never make videos about people because of how many subscribers they have. I would never do that. Obviously, I'm not a drama channel or anything like that, and I would never go out of my way to try and collaborate with somebody just because they get a lot of views and stuff like that. It's weird. I don't know anybody who would do that, but again, if Imian's saying that I'm only doing it for views, and at the same time, that's just a pure projection. Maybe this is another pure projection. So if you are a bigger creator and Imian has been hitting you up recently to make content, maybe you should think about why he's doing that now, as opposed to before, especially if you've seen growth in the last few weeks to months. For example, my friend Zavi, who suddenly now Imian is interested in playing with since he's seeing some growth. It's a little bit strange. Now, I know I said that we were going to order the video, that first little introductory part, and then we were going to go over Imian's response. However, I don't want to have you guys waiting for the new information until the end of the video, and I realize that might be a little bit too long after, recording as much as I have so far. Even though I'm doing my best to keep this short and sweet, I do feel like this video is going to be a little bit longer than I want it to be. So we're going to go ahead and hop into the new information that unfolded that actually prompted me to make this video, and then we'll go and we'll address Imian's response video and anything else that we want to address towards the end. So that way, if you guys only get to this point of the video, you get the new information, you guys can make an informed decision based on that. And I've already covered a couple of concerns that were brought up to me either in DMs or in comments. So I do feel like this is going to be the best way to structure the video. So basically, after the video went live, there was a guy who was actually just very rude to me for seemingly no reason in the MTS Salt chat, and I was a little bit confused as to why this guy was just out of nowhere coming at me so sideways when we were just having a conversation in Salt about the video and the whole situation. Obviously, I just wrote it off as it being one of Imian's ardent supporters. This guy named Ray G said, "A grown man on an 18-year-old dick, LMAO. I was like, I don't see how age factors into someone's actions. He said, why do you care so much about someone else's life? Worry about your bag and your content. I said, wild how you guys are saying chasing clout from a guy I literally don't respect as a creator. He has to fake his content for views. Maybe if your favorite YouTuber watched his actions, you want to get called out." We go back and forth. You guys can, pause any of these screenshots if you want. But I do want to bring up the fact that there is a very big parallel between the way that Imian talks about me and the way this guy talks about me. So much so, in fact, that he actually even goes as far as to bring up subscriber counts the same exact way that Imian did, which is very strange. After me and this guy's conversation were over, some people were even speculating that since Imian is banned from the MTS Discord, that might have been Imian on an alt. However, after speaking to the owners of Pandemic, which is another Windows 10 cluster, we were given a little bit of information to illuminate who Mr. Ray G is. So as you guys can see from this screenshot here, Ray G says he has a new Discord called It's Dope. And that's weird, Dope. Why does that sounds familiar. Oh, is that because it's Dopey's alt account? I think it is. So as you guys can see from this screenshot here, This is Ray G talking to a man called Infuse. Now, if you guys are not aware and you're not well versed in the Win 10 Arc cluster stuff, Infuse is one of the biggest DOSers with, respect to, hitting servers offline. And he's saying, we grow and you get paid more. Simple math, right? Infuse says, bet. Ray G then says, Caesars and Pandemic wiped today. And Infuse responds, we will hit Pandemic. One of my guys is on Caesar right now. Now, here's the thing. I'm not going to speculate on whether or not he was hitting my server at this point, Infuse, because when he says one of my guys is on Caesars, he could mean one of his friends is playing on Caesars, so they don't want to hit it, or he could be saying that one of his guys is already hitting Caesars. I'm not sure, but I'm not going to speculate, because again, it's objective. You want to get the facts. That'd be speculation. However, this is Ray G saying that, they need to hit Pandemic and Caesars because, they want to get more pop. Now, obviously, you guys are going, Caesar, Caesar, Caesar. How do we know that this is Dopey's alt? Obviously, he speaks very similar to Imian, and he seems to be a big fan of Imians, but, there's no possible way that you have any proof that that's, oops. So I guess after the first point of contact, Dopey just felt, well, let's go ahead and just DM him on main. So this is screenshots of Infuse speaking to Dopey in DMs on Discord. So Dopey says a 1,000 pop server that's like $100 weekly for you. LOL. I didn't do the math, but it's somewhere around there. Infuse says 250. Wait, 50 per 100. And Dopey says, let me read what the agreement was. 1 sec. And he says, sounds about right. We started with 300. And then he says, I don't mind giving it right now, but then every week it will be the same day, same time. Infuse says, I mean, we just wanted to see that you're legit as we've done our part. Again, speaking to, at the very least, DDoSing Pandemic arc, but we haven't seen anything in return. Dopey said, like I said, we will do payments Sunday. I don't mind switching it to Saturday, as it's Saturday for me right now. And Infuse says, yeah, we will switch. Dopey says, so let me know what you want. Okay, send me PayPal. And then Infuse sends him the PayPal. So I mean, I don't know, guys. Maybe I'm just misremembering here. It's really strange, but I mean, maybe you guys can remind me in the comments if Dopey and Imian worked on a server together or something. And maybe, like, I don't know. It's kind of fuzzy in my brain right now. So if you guys could remind me in the comments who this Dopey guy is, I would really appreciate it. Now, as if that's not bad enough and damning enough, I'll go ahead and show you guys as well the guy who, Joey got these screenshots from, the owner of Pandemic. He was actually messaging him, and Infuse said, okay, man, Imian just made a reply video to Caesar and said he didn't know that I DOSed. Soon as he found out, he banned me. So essentially what Infuse is saying here is that Imian is lying about him not knowing that he DOSed and that he banned him as soon as he found out. And I don't know why this pissed Infuse off so much. I guess he just doesn't like fake people. So this is why he leaked these screenshots. That's not the only screenshot that I have to show you guys. I'm going to go ahead and show you guys this one more time. This is a screenshot that I showed in the last video. This screenshot was taken on January 16th. Imian tried to say that he removed all of the DDoSers from his cluster the second that he found out that that's what they did. However, I have, of course, unconfirmed reports, because I'm banned from Imian's Discord and have been for a while, been told from several different sources that he only removed them from the cluster security after the video went live. I do, however, know this screenshot was taken 4 days before the video went live, so unless he found out between 4 days before the video went live and when the video went live, he's just straight up been lying about that, and he does know who these people are and what they do. There is, however, one thing that I wasn't able to get concrete evidence on, which really sucks. There was apparently a VC that happened. I got quite a few DMs about this, where people were saying that Imian had been bragging about DOSing Pandemic, and once you take that. Obviously, I'm not going to say that it happened, but once you take that whole, situation and you factor in these screenshots of, Dopey paying this guy Infuse to hit Pandemic, as well as possibly our server, again, can't confirm, but, did mention my server, it does seem very, very likely that that did happen. Now, obviously, I'm going to go ahead and make a prediction here, because I don't want Imian just trying to fool you guys with the easiest double talk possible, I'm going to go ahead and say that one of two things is going to happen. Either Imian is going to feign ignorance of this entire situation. He's going to say, oh, guys, I had no idea that Dopey was doing that. Or he's going to say that he found out that Dopey was doing it but didn't want to tell you guys. In any event, I see him completely throwing Dopey under the bus. A third option is he's going to try and contest the validity of these screenshots whatsoever. I could get more screenshots of the DMs and stuff, but honestly, I think this is more than enough. We have, Dopey on an alt contacting Infuse, and then once the first point of contact is over, we have Dopey on his main account talking about payment and when they're going to schedule their payment, how much it's going to cost per amount of people that are getting hit off the cluster and all of that. And then obviously Infuse sending the PayPal and everything. All of this is time stamped and it lines up to being like a couple of days after one of our previous wipes. And that was right around the time that Pandemic also wiped. So it all makes sense. It all, adds up. Anyways, yeah. Just wanted to bring that to your guys' attention. I don't know what kind of, justifications you guys are going to make for Imian on that one, but I am very excited to see them in the comments. And as a little aside here, before we actually get to addressing Imian's video, and while we're on the topic of comments, I do think it's really fucking funny, like really, really fucking funny, that Imian has been deleting like overwhelmingly negative comments or comments that bring up the fact that he's ignored the fact that he faked the 100 days content and things that are just damning that he can't talk his way out of. And you guys can believe me or not, if you were watching the video or if you commented on the video a negative comment, you would know what I'm talking about. But I literally was watching the comments on his video the first night that it was out, and it went to about 795 comments, and then when I refreshed the page, it went down to 605. I have a lot of them. You're going to see them on screen. They're going really fast. So again, if you guys want to see these, you're going to have to pause, but try and find these comments. Like, the majority of them are gone. There are a few that are still there, but the vast majority of these comments are gone from the video, and I think that's so fucking funny, man. Because how are you going to make an apology style video and then try to hide the fact that people aren't accepting your apology? That's so funny to me. He has, at this point in time, around 10,000 more views than me. However, with him having 14,000, more views than me, he has around 200 less comments than me. And another thing that I wanted to point out really quick, because again, I think this is really funny. Going back to the topic of, how people are accepting his video as, a perfect apology and everything that he was saying about that. I downloaded a cute little Chrome extension called Get the Dislike Button Back or something like that. And as you guys can see here, I mean, I got 1.5k likes and 179 dislikes. And, Imian got 1.6k likes and 422 dislikes. I mean, I don't know, man. It doesn't really seem like people are agreeing with you as much as you think. You might have more views on the video, bud, but at the end of the day, the community's pretty clear about, which video they were taking as genuine, which one they weren't. I even want to take a moment just to highlight my favorite comment that ended up getting deleted, which was a guy who just commented, "Please stop deleting comments," and then Imian went and deleted it. Like, I don't know how you can do that and just be so unashamedly, like, fake with your audience. But again, it is what it is, man. I don't even know what to say about it. It's just a little something on the side. So now we're going to go through Imian's video point by point, and surprisingly, this will probably be the shortest part of the video, as I've already brought up a lot of the things that need to be talked about, and we can just reference back to other parts of the video. Cue the fake YouTuber sigh.
I didn't want to do this, but
if you truly didn't want to make the video, then you wouldn't have. The fact that you are so stoked about how many views it got, and guarantee it definitely made you at least a couple $100. Yeah, I don't think that you're upset about making this video at all.
But I will do this once because you guys deserve the full story and the truth.
I'd also like to point out, I love how you call this video The Truth, and you talk about the truth when 90% of what you're saying is just a bold-faced lie.
A while back, I made a video showing some drama between a couple of YouTubers you may know, Xvibo, Simplex, and Vansimo. Later on, I realized I shouldn't have done it, and it wasn't worth losing good friends over a video game.
Again, if you realize that you shouldn't have done it and it wasn't worth losing friends over, you wouldn't have uploaded it in the video, as you expressed those concerns to me before you made the video. That just falls completely flat, and I don't understand why you're trying to go back and like flip-flop between this. I know that it was wrong. No, it was fine. No, it's wrong. No, it's fine. I don't get it.
I took down the video a few days ago, and I am in good terms with Xfeeble and working on my relationship with him. As for Simplex, I have yet to talk to him, but I will soon. And me and Van Seymour are also cool and past that.
Now, obviously, I do know that you and Simplex are on good terms, as I literally expressed that in the last video. However, Simplex did not get any response from you and was waiting for it for a while. And as far as I know, Vancy, feel free to correct me in the comments, but you and Vancy aren't on good terms. Like, what are you talking about? Like, hello?
Now, the Dopey Inside video was just an inside joke, no pun intended. However, none of the content in it was scripted. He actually kicked us, but again, it's just a game and we're not gonna ruin our relationship over a kick, so we just made a joke about it.
Now, obviously, I can't confirm whether or not this is true, but I did get DMs from people that said that they were the people you were playing with, and even if you and Dopey were in on the whole, like, haha, it's funny, it's a joke kind of thing, we're gonna make a video out of it, they certainly weren't, and it was still fucked up for you guys to use people for content like that, even if they weren't aware that the whole thing was staged. Again, I can't confirm the validity on that, but considering they're saying they didn't know that it was a joke, you're saying that the thing wasn't scripted and Dopey actually kicked people, I am actually inclined to believe you on that. I do think there is another point to be made, however, about you making this video and framing this whole thing as a joke. I do think that it speaks to the fact that you literally don't feel remorse for the whole situation with Simplex, Xfeeble, and Vancy, and you were literally trivializing it and making light of it in this video, whether you realize that you're doing that or not. There's too much of a parallel between that video and the Dopey video for you to say that it's not like a jab at them, and like I don't think that anybody who watched that video had any problem understanding what kind of message you were trying to send. You were basically essentially making fun of your friends for being angry that they got kicked from a tribe. Whether or not it was staged, I don't know. Like I said, I'm going to go ahead and concede the point that it wasn't staged content and these people just had the most muted reactions to being kicked of all time. But at the end of the day, it was still shitty.
Now, I admit saying that I was playing on my servers when I really wasn't was a mistake. I still don't see why it has become or been made such a big deal when it really isn't.
Yes, it is. The reason it's a big deal, Imian, is you are lying about the smallest of things in your videos. If you're going to lie about laughs that people have to jokes that you've made, if you're going to lie about you and Dopey having a falling out, if you're going to lie about what server you're playing on, when it's a one-off and it's not like you're doing it to try and hide what server you're on so you don't get like YouTuber stream sniped, like, then you're going to lie about anything, man. Like, that's literally it. Putting aside the fact that you're trying to use a more popular cluster's population and PvP to promote your own, which is shitty in and of itself, just looking from the content perspective, you are lying to your audience. That's a problem. It doesn't matter how big or how small it is. You should never be lying to your audience. Again, unless you're doing it in a way that does not detract from anything that you're doing, but it does have bearing on the fact that you're trying to promote your cluster with footage from a more successful cluster. Like some other people said, you make free promotion for MTS all the time. I do know Hamilton will pay some content creators at the beginning of Wipe a very small amount compared to like more newer clusters as just like a thank you to those creators to get them to put out like the first couple videos. But there's been countless times you've made MTS videos without any monetary compensation. So saying that you didn't want to give free promotion to another cluster, as some people have also stated in your comments, makes absolutely zero sense. However, I'm fair. I will give credit where it's due. You are saying that you do realize that it was a mistake. I don't necessarily believe you, but again, if we're going off face value and we're trying to be as unbiased as possible, I will give you credit, and hopefully you will learn from this mistake and you will stop lying about what servers you're playing on. Let's move on.
As for the guy I am accused of scamming, I'll keep his name out of this, and you'll see why.
I have absolutely no idea why you're trying to keep this guy's name out of the video. His name is James D. I put it in my video. He also went by Glock999. He also went by Tempest. And I feel like the reason that you kept his name out of it was because it literally took me 2 seconds of asking him in DMs about the things that you're about to say for him to prove you wrong.
Let's call him Bobby. This is a subject of he said, she said, so I will stay my side and you believe what you want. Our agreement for the servers was a 50-50 revenue split. He pays for the servers as part of the deal, otherwise he would receive a smaller percent, meaning the servers aren't really his. He is paying for them and compensated with a higher revenue. He is to also provide admin support.
I'm just going to stop and show you guys this screenshot here because I feel like Imian showed it in a way to try and shame James for not wanting to do admin tickets 24 hours a day. I will say that work-life balance is very important. We have a lot of admins on our cluster, and even with that, there are periods where there will be no admins online. Our community more than understands that, and while it might be frustrating when you're doing an online fob and there's mesh foundations that need removed, or you want to do a donation so that you can get something on the cluster that could help you in a very significant way now, as opposed to 6 hours from now, or however long it might take for an admin to get on. I don't think that having a work-life balance is something that we should be trying to chastise this guy for. We have people that put in a lot more time than others, and at the end of the day, you made an agreement with this guy that he was going to help with admin stuff, and he was going to be paid 50% of the revenue because he was providing the servers. That did not in any way, shape, or form mean that he was going to need to be the most active admin on your servers. So I don't know why you're trying to shame him here, but that's kind of weird, and I don't like that at all.
Then time goes by and my expectations weren't met.
Nobody gives a fuck about your expectations.
Bobby was very inactive and only took care of tickets that were related with the shop. All he would do is post a PayPal for the person buying and let someone else do the work. He said he coded the servers, also false. First of all, it's not coding. We use an app called Beacon where you just have to press buttons. That is not coding, nor does it require much knowledge to operate.
The fact that you think that coding with Beacon is just pressing some buttons shows how far removed from the coding process you are, and the fact that you think that it's easy and not time consuming, like, it's really weird to me. Just to give you guys an example, when we coded our servers, we have a thing on our cluster where the crafting skill is really high. This allows players to be able to take any blueprint and cap it pretty easily. So what we did was we took all of the drops and we compared it to the official drop loot tables for those drops, and then we swapped the rarity of the items so that hunting for blueprints is more about finding a lower cost blueprint than it is about finding a higher tier blueprint. Just doing that with a literal outline to go off of and doing that in Beacon for all of the drops that are in this game took multiple days and 2 people working on it because I had to read off what we were putting in each drop, how much to put the spawn weight at, how many items were supposed to go in that drop. We had to test to make sure that it was working correctly. There's a lot of shit that goes into this coding part of a cluster, and for him to say that it's just pressing some buttons and act like he did it all himself is just, one, patently false, because if he just thought that it was pressing some buttons, the server literally wouldn't have launched properly if he coded it himself. And for two, if you guys go and download Beacon, you can see how much time goes into all of the settings for a server.
I did the settings, I did most of the tickets. I gave Bobby the benefit of the doubt several times and pushed him to work harder.
So I'm going to go ahead and pause it here to show you guys Imian flexing the fact that he did 100 tickets to James. I would like to reiterate that Imian has now at this point mentioned that he's more active in support tickets and James is more active in shop tickets. So I'm going to assume that these are support tickets that we're talking about. I'm only going to reference those. Every wipe on Caesar's Arc, we have between 1,000 and 1,500 tickets. So do with that information what you will. If he's only doing 100 and he's got even remotely close to the amount of tickets that we have as a new cluster with all the people that need to be banned for aimbot and ESP and stuff, which is a new thing, that you have to do every time that a new cluster comes out. 100 tickets is really nothing. I was doing probably around 100 tickets per day when our cluster wiped last. So I don't know why he's talking about that like it's some huge flex.
I finally decided I no longer wanted to work with him. I ended up giving him 100% of the revenue for the season, which ended up being over $1,400.
100% of the revenue from the donations did hit this guy's PayPal account because, like Imian said previously in the video, the dude would put his PayPal account into the tickets that were the dono tickets, and that's how the donos were paid out. However, I do have a screenshot, a couple of screenshots here actually, of Dopey being paid by James, and these are just like 10 seconds of talking to him in DMs after this video of Imians came out. I said, "Hey, do you have PayPal transaction receipts to show that you didn't keep 100% of the donations?" And unless he's just sending Dopey a bunch of money because he wants to see his feed or something, I don't know. I mean, maybe you can try and shed some light on that, Imian. Imian said it was $1,400. James said it was $1,200. If Imian had sent the money to James, we would have a clear picture on what that amount is. However, like I said, the donations went to James's PayPal, so then James would pay people out from his PayPal. Imian says he doesn't take any money from the cluster, but James told me in a DM, which I'll show you guys here, that he was instructed to pay Dopey Imian's portion. So again, whichever way you slice it, the portion was still paid. If you ask me, this is the real reason that Imian tried to hide James's identity, is it was so easy for him to provide evidence of the fact that he did, in fact, not get 100% of the revenue. He did get a pretty sizable amount of money from the servers. However, servers cost hundreds and hundreds of dollars, as he said in the last video. So even though he did recoup more than the cost of the servers, at the end of the day, he should have been paid more because those donations that he got were supposed to be his anyways, and he should have been able to retain his servers and do with them whatever he wanted after the fact.
I didn't take a single dollar while putting in the most work. I asked him to give me ownership of the Nitrado account, which he agreed to, which were mine in the first place because it was in our agreement that he paid for the servers to receive a larger percent of the revenue.
Again, there is no proof of like some sort of contract being signed between you two that says that the Nitrado account would then become yours if you guys partnered. I don't know what kind of egotistical weird shit this is. I've partnered with Carf in the past when it was just a I'm gonna partner with you. We put my name on the cluster thing when we did Caesar's Arc the first time. I did not feel in any way like those servers were mine. I do feel a little bit more ownership over the cluster the second time around, because I helped a lot more in the creation of it, but still at the end of the day, Carf has the primary ownership over the servers and she runs everything. And at the end of the day, without her and the admin staff that she brought, the servers wouldn't exist. And that's the same situation here. You wouldn't have servers up at the time that you had them up if you hadn't partnered with somebody who already had servers paid for, had an admin team to help support your admin team. But you wouldn't have been able to get servers up as quickly as you did if you didn't have these people. And in no way do you have some sort of ownership over his Nitrado account just because you think that you should be able to have them. I did see in the screenshot that you said you're just going to buy the servers yourself, and I'm very confused why you didn't just do that. If you're having a bit of an issue where you don't trust this guy and you don't want to work with him anymore, just buy your own servers and then there's no issue. You don't steal from people under false pretenses and say that you're going to take ownership of the Nitrado account so that you can have more direct control over things, and then cut him off, block him, and ban him from your Discord the next day.
Once I removed him from the team, he decided to spam me with death threats because he lives near me. Also messaged my father and mother, threatening them as well.
This is one of the key points that I really wanted to address in this video because I do believe that Imian is just blatantly lying here. I think from pretty much anybody's perspective who reads all of the screenshots that Imian puts on screen, especially if we reference back to this one here around the 2-minute mark, he says sending a message to your mom and dad right now advising them, and then he starts to mention Imian's parents in a more passing manner. I do believe 100% without even the conversation that I had with James, which confirmed this because I wanted to get his side of the whole situation, that all he was doing, because he does live in the area that Imian does, was saying that he was going to let his parents know the kind of scummy shit that he was doing and how he broke the verbal contract that they had. I do not think that he ever did get in contact with his parents, but I could be wrong about that. I'm not entirely sure. I will like to say, though, that I'll put a screenshot on screen here where Imian continued to say that he was receiving death threats and threats of harm against him and his family in a comment on his video. To which I replied and said, Imian, if this is truly happening, as I've seen you say this multiple times now, reach out to me personally in a DM because I don't endorse this behavior. And obviously, I would want to, make sure that that is known. And I would want to, advise him on how to get in contact with his local law enforcement and the necessary steps that need to be taken because those things need to be taken very, very seriously as a content creator and as a personality online. Imian did not reply to this at all. This was actually before Imian had messaged me about the video and started flexing his views and things. And he's never provided any proof to anybody that I'm aware of that this guy made any sort of threats of bodily harm to him whatsoever or his family. So I do think this is really gross. And unless Imian can provide some sort of proof, which again, I'm not going to say 100% that he's lying about this. It just really, really seems like he is. If you can send me some sort of definitive proof that he threatened bodily harm against you or your family, Imian, I will correct this in the comments. But until I see some sort of proof on this, this seems like a reach and a way for you to try and garner sympathy. And it's really, really off-putting.
Now, the correlations this guy made with me and the DDoSers is unfair.
Is it though? Is it though?
And then another server owner came up to me to let me know they were DOSers. But this is a business, and other owners sometimes don't have the best intentions and are thinking about their own servers, which is why I was hesitant to the advice and ignored it.
See, this point I take very personal issue with because he misrepresents this so heavily, and I don't know if it's just a linguistic breakdown where he just misspoke or if he's doing this intentionally. But given the fact that Imian plays dumb, but he's actually very smart, I'm going to go ahead and assume the latter and that he was doing this intentionally to mislead his audience. This isn't another server owner contacting him. This is my server owner contacting him. It's not like it's some random third party that he's never spoken to. He's known Carr for about 1.5 years, 2 years at this point. She helped him with some of the coding stuff on his server. She used to approach him about server ads when we would run Caesar's Arc in the past and when she was running KOS. It's not like this is some random person he's never had a point of contact with coming out of nowhere trying to tell him, hey, these guys are bad news, don't associate with them with no proof. Not only does he know this person, he knows that they're associated with my cluster, which he could have confirmed with me in one DM, which never happened, and she showed him definitive proof that the guy that he was having as his cluster security was threatening to DDoS our cluster. So I don't understand why he's trying to misrepresent the situation to make it seem like this is some random person, but that's really weird to me.
Later on, when I realized these people were actually DDoSing, I removed their roles and terminated any correlation with them.
I mean, that's technically true. You did delete them from your Discord after the video went up. However, the information that was in the video was the same information that was DM'd to you. So I'm, again, just don't understand how you're trying to say that you didn't know that these people were doing the things they were doing when we sent you the same information that was put in the video.
Another thing that was brought in his video was the fact that I sold bases on my server, which is actually none of his business. Well, none of this is, but this is especially none of his business, and I could do whatever I want with my servers as it is pretty much public to anybody who plays on it.
Hey, that's one thing that we actually agree on, and I actually shared the same sentiment in my own video. If you go and look at this clip here, all of that's not really something that I want to get too far into, though, more than what I've just said here. You can run your server any way that you want to at the end of the day. That's totally your prerogative. I literally said that it's your own server. You can run it any way that you want. One thing I will go ahead and disagree with you, though, is none of this is my business is completely false because, like I said, my servers were the ones that were getting hit by people that you had on your staff. I did think it was funny, though, that in a 7-minute video, you hyper-focused on something that I said in my 30-minute video for about 10 seconds, but then completely ignored other things like the 100 days thing, where you played 70 days out of 100, and you hiring cheaters and things like that, that also got mentioned. If you're going to address everything, address everything. If you're not going to address everything, just address the main points, but whatever, man. It's your video. Do whatever you want.
And now, the most important topic, the one that I do feel some guilt for, is Finn Reinhardt.
I'm going to go ahead and save you guys the trouble of him rehashing the thing that I already rehashed. The main takeaway from this is I asked him point blank in the DMs, did you credit or pay Finn? After he had brought up being upset about it, he said no. That's all that really matters at the end of the day. He's been taken care of. He's been made whole both by Blur and by Imian. So, and also Finn reached out and let me know that he got a lot of support from you guys as well, which I really love. That you guys have done a really good job of showing your support to a creator who honestly is probably one of, if not the most underrated creators in the ARC space. He got more subscribers from me talking about this whole situation than he did from his last video, which is a fucking crime. But if you guys want to go and subscribe to him and support him, I would really appreciate it. Finn is a really wholesome guy. He's super unbiased. He has no hatred towards Imian or anything. He just thinks it was a bad situation. And again, we've already went over this a couple of times. Me and Imian are pretty much on the same page here. It's just he personally thinks that because no specifics were made about crediting or paying the person, that it was perfectly fine for him not to do so. And I and a lot of other people respectfully disagree.
Now, the reason this is even became public is because before me and Finn had fixed our issues, he privately messaged someone to seek their opinion on the topic. Again, he told this person before we had fixed things between us. The person decided to take an incomplete story that was also private, make it public without being aware that the whole situation was a misunderstanding, that it didn't even involve him at all, to which he didn't even have the full story of.
At the end of the day, I don't want to beat a dead horse here, but saying that it's not my business when a friend of mine, at least in my opinion, gets taken advantage of by somebody who doesn't appreciate his work and doesn't even have the decency to credit him after being reminded of it is a little disingenuous, I think, and it just seems like you're trying to deflect blame away from it. But again, even if I was somebody completely outside of the ARC scene, I do think that I would still, if I had a platform, make a video about this kind of topic if I had all this information, because I do think this kind of information should be shared with the community that you're involved in.
Anyways, even though he states the video is not made to bring hate to me or tarnish my image, it seems as if it was the only reason it was made. All of it is pretty much biased information without the full story.
I would challenge you to find a single part in my video that is biased information without the whole story. Like I said, I took over a week to research this. That's why it took so long for all this information to come out in the first place. I think the only reason that you're calling it biased half information is so that you can try and deflect the blame off of yourself. But at the end of the day, what you have to realize, Imian, is that there's accountability for your actions. And I literally spoke to every person involved in every situation that I talked about that wasn't directly involved with myself, and I got the exact same information that you're repeating here. Even the stuff that you brought up that I wasn't aware of in this video, I reached out and talked to the people again, and I was given the exact same information that you have access to. So I'm unsure what you mean by biased, but if you can find something for me, I mean, go for it, bud.
And all of these issues had been solved with the people that were actually involved.
You say all of the issues had been solved with the people involved. However, James reached out to me to let me know what was going on when you took the servers away from him. You didn't remove the people that were DDoSing from your server until after the video went live, and you never made amends to me or Karf about that whole situation. You still haven't messaged Simplex to the best of my knowledge. To the best of my knowledge, you haven't worked things out with Vancy. The only person who you even bothered to talk to was Xfibo and Finn, and you only spoke to Finn because he reached out to you, and then after the video you looked really bad, so you went and paid him, and you only reached out to Xfibo, at least in my opinion. Obviously this is my opinion, guys, I can't prove this, but the only reason that you reached out to Xfibo is because he's the biggest creator that was involved, and you want to be able to continue to work with him in the future.
And if this person truly wanted the best intentions for me and didn't want to spread hate, he wouldn't have made a 40-minute video using every screenshot possible, any little detail to try to talk negatively on my image and myself.
Once again, I didn't even use a fraction of the screenshots that I could use to paint you in a bad light. I've used more of them in this video, actually, than I did in the last. And if you wanted to settle all of these situations without all of this information being made public, then maybe you would have conducted yourself a little bit differently in all the private conversations that you've had with people, instead of just deflecting blame off of yourself, accepting zero personal responsibility, not fixing the issues, and in the case of talking to me, being the most toxic asshole possible. I think anybody who looks at the screenshots and the video that I've shared of our private DMs, with me being as non-combative and not even reaching out to you once, they can understand that you're the problem here, not me. If you have a problem with the way that I'm representing you, maybe you should represent yourself better, Imian. Maybe you need to take a step back, look in a mirror, and ask yourself, am I actually the problem here? Or is every other content creator on the platform the problem? Because at the end of the day, as you'll see on screen now, it's not just me who agreed with this. I've tried really hard to find one content creator who was on your side in this whole situation, and content creators who I never even thought would at all be interested in this or take a side or show any support one way or the other were messaging me privately, commenting on my video. Like, you have to fuck up really bad, man, for Hod to be on somebody else's side in that situation. Hod is probably one of the most wholesome creators on the entire platform. Like, they don't start beef with anybody. They just try to play the game, have fun, be a positive influence. And by no means am I like really great friends with Hod either. He still reached out to me in DMs and showed support for the video because he likes when these kinds of things are brought to light, just like every other content creator. So if you have a problem with the things that I'm saying, Imian, like I said, try and find a way to prove me wrong. Prove that Dopey didn't hire Infuse to at the very least hold Pandemic. Find a way to prove that you aren't lying about the amount of money that you paid your server owner and lying about the fact that he threatened your family and you with violence and you just happened to not go to the police about it. Find a way to prove that you aren't doing all of this and making your response video just so that you can try and get clout, and you aren't censoring your comments, and the community didn't actually negatively reply to your video with more dislikes than mine. Try and find a way to refute anything that I'm saying, bro. I implore you, please go for it, man. Like I said, I'm not in this for the drama or the views or anything. I don't see any possible reason that I would have to make a part 3 of this video, but I'm not going to go ahead and make the same mistake that I did last time and say that it's off the table just on the far outside chance that some new ridiculous thing comes to light. I don't believe that it will. I think at this point there's been enough time between the last video and this one that if anybody had concrete proof of Imian doing anything wrong, they would have already came forward with it, and unless it's as bad or worse than the stuff that is in this video, I'm not going to make a video on it. You, at the most, you'll see a community post or a tweet. Anyways, like I said at the beginning of this video, beginning of the last video, and the end of the last video, none of this is, made to send hatred towards any person involved. I don't care whether or not you agree or disagree with the things that I'm saying. All I'm trying to do is give my side of the situation in response to Imian making a video where he's basically trying to deflect all personal responsibility off of himself and just straight up lie about the situation, as well as show you guys undeniable proof that Imian's cluster was 100% involved in DDoSing other clusters. The very last point that I would like to make before I end this video, because I know it's went on way longer than I ever intended, I can see the timeline as I'm recording the voiceover, is while this drama stuff is not fun for anybody involved, and it's not fun for a lot of you guys that are viewing at home, I actually got some pretty, sad messages from people who said that they were really big fans of Imian and now they don't really know what to think because this guy that they looked up to is doing all of these bad things. I think that's another thing that he needs to take personal responsibility over. He's hurting his own fan base. He needs to be a better person for them because these are kids in a lot of cases that are looking up to him. He's not, some celebrity or anything like that, but on the internet, in the space that we're in, he's one of the bigger names in the scene right now, and especially with his last few videos performing so well, he's getting more and more of an audience, and he needs to conduct himself in a way that he can be a good role model for these people. But the last thing that I want to talk about is the messages that I got from people like the people that were owners of Pandemic Arc and some of the other people who I mentioned in the last video, like Finn and James and them. All of the people who had been wronged by this kind of behavior, or people who had been wronged by Imian in the past but didn't have any way to prove the way that he was acting or the vile way that he had treated them, pretty much the overwhelming consensus was that all of these people were very thankful for me putting this out there because they know that I'm going to get hate for it, and I know that I'm going to get hate for it. It is what it is. I don't care. But at the end of the day, I have a platform and I have a moral responsibility to let people know when a person in the space is not using their platform for good, and they didn't have that platform themselves and they wanted to thank me for it. So if you were somebody that, Imian wronged and you reached out, I want to let you guys know that's one of the main reasons that I did it, was I wanted to make sure that you guys had a voice. And if you were somebody that reached out to show support for the video and thank me for doing it, I do appreciate that, guys. But at the end of the day, like I said, it's not about, fans or fucking views or clout or anything like that. At the end of the day, it's just information. If I could have put this on a second channel or somebody else's channel, I would have. I just didn't have that opportunity. Anyways, I know this went on way longer. Hopefully, you guys found the beginning, timestamps for all of this helpful. Sorry that I rambled so much. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video.